Hello everyone, a very good morning and welcome to BYJU'S exam prep. Welcome to our daily Hindu analysis. Starting from today, we shall be launching a comprehensive crash course to help you prepare for the upcoming prelims. Target Prelims 2023 is all set to begin from today. This is an exclusive crash course available for free on our YouTube channel and as well as on the BYJU'S exam prep app. This crash course is divided into 4 phases. It's a very comprehensive crash course to help you cover all the important current affairs topics of the last 1 year. Phase 1 begins today, which is a strategy phase. Over the next 1 week, from the 1st of March to 6th March, we shall have live sessions every day exclusively on our YouTube channel. We are going to discuss how can you prepare in the next 90 days to ensure that you crack the upcoming prelims. We'll help you understand the strategy that you need to follow, and more importantly, we'll be taking all your questions live after the session. The faculties will answer the questions live and help you clear all the doubts regarding your preparation. So don't forget to attend these sessions live starting from 8 p.m. today. Today we'll have the first session on Indian polity. Once we wrap up the strategy session on YouTube, after this we enter the second phase, which is the content phase. We are going to discuss more than 400 current affairs topics. This part of the crash course will be exclusively available on the BYJU'S exam prep app. It will be available only on the app, these sessions. So that is why you have to download the BYJU'S exam prep app. Once we complete these discussions by 14th April, we'll be entering the third phase, which is the practice round. We will take up around 900 plus MCQs for discussion, and these sessions will be live on our YouTube channel from 15th April to 15th May. We shall also be covering previous year questions. We shall take up few select PYQs, help you understand the pattern of the examination, what kind of questions has UPSC been asking. So for an entire month, we shall be running these sessions live on our YouTube channel. Along with this, we'll also provide you full-length mock tests for free, which will be available on the BYJU'S exam prep app. So we really hope you take the full benefit of this free crash course. All you have to do is to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also download the BYJU'S exam prep app. Do subscribe to the Telegram channel as well so that you get all the updates regarding the schedule for the Target Prelims crash course. As I said, it's an absolutely free crash course. The only thing we expect from you in return is your serious commitment to the crash course, attending all the sessions regularly so that at the end you can crack the exam, and that is the best return gift you can provide us. And of course, you can always like the video, share your comments, do let us know if you are happy with this initiative, and also suggest what we can do going forward to help you in your preparation. So with this, let's start with the discussion of today's The Hindu Newspaper. Please take a look at the articles we are going to cover. As part of the editorial analysis, I have selected 3 important editorials and columns. We shall have a comprehensive discussion on all these topics, and we shall also look at few important prelims related articles. So in total, we have 8 topics to cover, and trust me, we'll have a comprehensive discussion on all the topics. Stay with me for the next 1 hour, and I guarantee you that you don't have to go back and read the newspaper. We'll ensure that the discussions are detailed and comprehensive, both from a prelims and mains point of view. So let's begin with the first article. We have an editorial on page number 8 that refers to the Windsor Framework, which has been recently signed between the United Kingdom and the European Union. If you guys remember, we spoke about this yesterday. We had a brief discussion on this. So let's carry out a more detailed discussion and analyze the importance of this agreement that the UK has signed with the European Union. This deal has implications for the European economy, and thereby it has implications for the global economy as well. Since this topic is related to Brexit, it does have implications for Indian interests also. That's why the topic becomes very, very important. So let's see what is the Windsor Framework. The Windsor Framework, which was signed a couple of days ago between UK and European Union, it will replace the Northern Ireland Protocol. It's going to replace the Northern Ireland Protocol, which was a previous deal that had been worked out between UK and European Union to deal with the post-Brexit fallout, to deal with the post-Brexit implications. A deal had been worked out between UK and European Union to provide for a special arrangement to Northern Ireland. This deal was called the Northern Ireland Protocol. But this protocol had led to many problems, many challenges within the United Kingdom. Hence, the deal has been replaced with a new framework called the Windsor Framework. Now, to understand this further, we need to look at the background. You need to know what is Brexit. What's the problem in Northern Ireland? How does the deal create problems within the United Kingdom, and why a new deal was required to replace the Northern Ireland Protocol? So let's understand all these key points and let's take a detailed look at this topic. You're looking at the map of United Kingdom here, or also called as Britain. UK or Britain is made up of 4 territories. Let me highlight which are these territories. It is made up of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. This essentially comprises the territory of United Kingdom or UK, or also known as Britain. Is that clear? These 4 territories together comprise the United Kingdom. Now, Scotland, Wales, and England, they are referred to as Great Britain as well. These 3 territories, which are part of this large island that you see here in Western Europe, this territory is also called Great Britain. So the term Great Britain refers to England, Wales, and Scotland. So along with Great Britain, if you add Northern Ireland, then you get United Kingdom, the sovereign territory in the sovereign government of United Kingdom or Britain. This territory that you see here, the grey shaded territory, this is a separate country altogether. This is the Republic of Ireland. Is that clear? This is the Republic of Ireland. Whereas Northern Ireland is part of the sovereignty of Britain or UK. Now, in Britain, there was always a strong debate whether the country should remain a member of the European Union. Before 2015, there was a political debate going on in Britain that Britain is not gaining anything from being a member of the European Union, which is a regional organization of the European region. If you become a member of the EU, the member countries actually enjoy many advantages because the EU provides for a free trade area. It provides for a common set of policies covering various sectors including trade, commerce, technology, foreign policy, etc. All the members, they essentially come together under the European Union. Around 27 countries today, they are members of the EU, and collectively they cooperate in the region to ensure the overall well-being of the region. So they have created a free trade market, a common customs union, and they have removed border controls. This is the advantage of being a member of the European Union. The border controls have been eliminated, which is the immigration mechanisms, the security checks, the custom checks. All these hard border controls are removed for the members of the European Union. They allow the free movement of people, goods, services, and investments. And in return, they also contribute to the European Union. Of course, they'll have to contribute funds to the organization. They'll have to compromise a little bit on their sovereignty in order to come up with common policies, which will suit the whole region, not just one country. So United Kingdom had issues with this. Even though it was a member of EU before 2016, it always had issues with the EU, and there was a demand within Britain to quit European Union altogether. Because there was a political sentiment within Britain that Britain was contributing more to the EU and it wasn't getting anything in return. Britain was not comfortable with compromising its economic and political sovereignty. Because if you're a member of EU, you need to accept the common policies. You need to provide for free borders, open borders, promote free trade, allow the free movement of people. So Britain had issues with all of this. So there was a political movement building up in Britain before 2015. This led to the demand for Brexit. that is the exit of Britain from European Union, and a referendum for this purpose was held in the year 2016. In 2016, a direct election was held. A referendum is a direct election where the people cast a vote to decide on an important policy issue. So Britain voted for Brexit. Is that clear? Brexit basically refers to the exit of Britain from European Union, and the choice was given to the public, to the citizens of Britain. Majority of the citizens, as you can see here, 52% of them, they voted for the leave option. That is to pull Britain out of the European Union. So as a result, Britain started the process of exiting the EU, and more or less it completed the exit process by 2020. Because just because a referendum has happened doesn't mean Britain can exit EU overnight. There is a process. If you look at the Constitution of European Union, which is the Lisbon Treaty, the Lisbon Treaty defines how a member country can quit European Union. This is defined under Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty. So the process under Article 50 has to be followed. So when a member is quitting EU, they have to work out a deal. They have to work out a post-exit deal which will determine the future relations between that country and the European Union, to determine the future trade mechanisms, to determine the border controls. You need a new arrangement, a new agreement between the former member, which is quitting the organization, and the European Union. So Britain had to negotiate the deal with European Union, and finally a deal was finalized. So as Britain quit EU, it exited from the Common Trade and Customs Union as well. The hard border controls had to come back. But however, this was always problematic as far as Northern Ireland was concerned. Because Northern Ireland is a unique case. Northern Ireland, which belongs to UK, has always had separatist tendencies. This is something I mentioned in the previous session as well. Even similarly in Scotland, there has been separatist tendencies. In Scotland and Northern Ireland, there have been pro-liberation movements which have sought to break away these regions from United Kingdom. They have sought full-fledged independence in the past. That's why if you look at the Brexit vote for each region, you will see that Brexit was widely supported only in England and in Wales. But the support in Scotland and Northern Ireland was very less. Majority of them were against Brexit in Scotland and Northern Ireland. Because these territories, that is Scotland, Northern Ireland, where there are separatist tendencies, they prefer remaining with the European Union, as the region benefits from the free trade arrangements. The main problem with EU was in England and Wales. This is where the Brexit sentiments were very strong. That's why you see majority votes in these territories in favor of Brexit. So now that Britain had voted for Brexit, majority of the population had voted for leaving the European Union, the question of Northern Ireland came up. What will happen to Northern Ireland? What would be the border controls between Northern Ireland and United Kingdom? What would be the border controls between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, which is a separate country, as I pointed out? And please note, Republic of Ireland is still a member of the European Union. See, when insurgency and separatism was raging in Northern Ireland in 1960s, 1970s, the Irish people, right, they got support from Republic of Ireland. The Irish people have always sought to unite Northern Ireland with Republic of Ireland. That is why they sought to break away from United Kingdom. So during the period of insurgency from 1960s to 1990s, there was always a demand in Northern Ireland for free movement and free trade with Republic of Ireland. Because the people of Northern Ireland, they connect with the Irish identity on the other side, which is in Republic of Ireland. So when insurgency was brought to an end in 1998, it was brought to an end by signing the Good Friday Agreement. The Good Friday Agreement was signed between Northern Ireland and United Kingdom, especially the separatist elements, the insurgents, the militants, and other political factions, the Irish political groups. They signed the Good Friday Agreement, agreeing to surrender, agreeing to end their separatist movement. In return, UK gave a lot of concessions to Northern Ireland. a lot of powers were delegated, devolved to the local government in Northern Ireland. And a promise was made to keep the border here as an open border, as a free open border, so that Northern Ireland could easily trade with the Republic of Ireland. So that people could easily move around the region. The goods from Northern Ireland could easily enter Republic of Ireland without any checks. And this was possible because back then in 1998, Britain and Republic of Ireland, both the countries, they were members of the European Union. So they were bound by EU's laws as far as trade and border controls were concerned. So this was not a problem. This arrangement was given where Northern Ireland was allowed to easily trade with Republic of Ireland. Right? UK itself was part of this trading bloc as a member of the EU. Now, since Britain had quit EU, the question was, will hard borders come up between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland? This was the big question. If hard border controls are again brought back, the fear was this could trigger separatist tendencies again in Northern Ireland. Because this was a commitment, a promise made under the Good Friday Agreement, that these borders will remain open. It will allow Irish people to move around, and it will allow the movement of goods between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. So this was a big question, and Britain had a serious challenge with regard to this. Now please understand, when UK left European Union, Northern Ireland remained its only constituent territory which still shared a land border with a EU member, that is the Republic of Ireland. We clearly saw this in the map. So now the question was, will hard border controls come back? Will security checks be done? Immigration checks be done? Custom checks and taxes, will they be imposed at the checkpoints on this land border? If these hard border controls were brought back, it would be a breach of the Good Friday Agreement commitments, and there was a fear that this could trigger the separatist tendencies and trigger violence and insurgency again in Northern Ireland. So that is why Britain sought a special deal. Britain negotiated with European Union and worked out a special arrangement for Northern Ireland, which was called the Northern Ireland Protocol. This protocol defined how goods will move from Great Britain to Northern Ireland and how goods will move from Northern Ireland to Republic of Ireland. It also defined how the goods will move from UK, or especially Great Britain, towards Republic of Ireland. This trade arrangement was worked out through the Northern Ireland Protocol. Now let me explain what were the provisions of Northern Ireland Protocol and what problems it started creating. To explain this, I need to show you one more map. If you look at this map, the arrangement under Northern Ireland Protocol was that goods which are headed from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, they had to be checked. They will be checked. There will be a customs check, a border check before goods from Great Britain enters Northern Ireland. Whereas there is a free border, a free open border here, a free open border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Now, why was this arrangement created? Because see, please remember, Republic of Ireland remains a member of the European Union. It's a separate country altogether. If goods from UK directly enter Republic of Ireland, it has to be subjected to custom checks because Britain is no longer a member of the EU. So hard border had to come up here. But UK, European Union, Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, they all agreed to maintain the open borders even after Brexit in order to prevent the rise of insurgency and separatist sentiments again, and to uphold the promises made under Good Friday Agreement. This border here between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland was kept open, so people and goods could easily move around the region. Now the problem is, if there is an open border here, what if goods from Great Britain enter Northern Ireland, and from Northern Ireland, what if they get a free entry into Republic of Ireland? That is a concern for European Union. So EU wanted a border check to come up here, a checkpoint where all the goods coming from Great Britain to Northern Ireland is also subjected to custom checks, so that if the goods go from Northern Ireland to Republic of Ireland, then it will not violate the free trade provisions of the European Union. This was the trade arrangement that was created under Northern Ireland Protocol. Now this created a problem. It created a practical challenge, and more importantly, it raised questions within Britain. Within Britain, serious questions came up because within the country, border controls had been created. See, Northern Ireland is British territory. It is under British sovereignty. And if goods were sent from, let's say, England or Scotland or Wales to Northern Ireland, custom checks were being done. At the Irish ports, custom checks were being done on the goods coming from Great Britain. Now this is like having a border control within India. If goods are being sent, let's say, from Maharashtra to Tamil Nadu, and if the goods are subjected to a customs check at a checkpoint, right, internally you're creating a division within your own country. You're breaking your sovereignty. So within Britain, the unionists, who have always supported a strong British Union, they opposed these border controls. They criticized the Northern Ireland Protocol. They said this is a useless agreement which is threatening the sovereignty of Britain because there is an internal check post. This also created practical problems because of the border checks that were placed between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It started leading to very long delays for the goods to be checked, certified, and taxes to be placed on it. There was a delay involved in practice. So as a result, the trade within UK got very badly affected. Today you might have read in newspapers that in United Kingdom, in Northern Ireland, there is a shortage of basic items like vegetables, medicine, meat, etc. Because such basic items are not freely moving around because of the border checks that have come up between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which was mandated by the Northern Ireland Protocol. Believe it or not, UK companies, let's say e-commerce companies, if you're in Northern Ireland, you place an order on Amazon. If Amazon has the product in Great Britain, Amazon would say will not ship the product to Northern Ireland because we have to go through border checks. The cost will increase, plus there are a lot of complications involved, a lot of paperwork and documentation. So many e-commerce companies, they stopped shipping goods within the country. Within UK, from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, the shipment of goods had been stopped because of the hard border checks which had come up. This was having a huge economic impact, leading to shortage of essential items in Northern Ireland and as well as in Great Britain. Essential supplies like meat, vegetables, dairy products, medicines were running out, and the shortage remains even today. And also this arrangement was opposed by the unionists who called for a strong British Union because internally checkposts had been created within the country which was a threat to sovereignty of Britain itself. So that is why there was a strong demand to remove Northern Ireland Protocol to replace this with a more practical arrangement, with a better arrangement which is more efficient, which will not lead to these unnecessary delays while protecting the integrity of Britain. That is why Britain began new negotiations with European Union, and a new deal has been worked out called the Windsor Framework. This will replace the problematic Northern Ireland Protocol. Alright? It introduces two important changes. The first change is with regard to the checkpoints. Let me explain how this is going to work. A separate green channel and a red channel has been created for the movement of goods between these territories. Let's see the map and understand how it's going to work. See, according to the Windsor Framework, this is the new plan. According to the Windsor Framework, the goods coming from Great Britain towards Ireland, it will be split into two different channels. There will be a green channel which is within the United Kingdom. Goods going from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, they will not be checked henceforth. They will pass through the green lane, thereby reducing the delays and ensuring that essential supplies are maintained on both sides of the United Kingdom. Alright? However, goods which are headed towards Republic of Ireland, which is a separate country, which is an EU member, these goods have to pass through the red channel, the red lane. They'll be subjected to separate custom checks, as per the laws of the European Union. The goods will be checked, security checks will be done, customs will be imposed on it, which is in line with European Union laws. So this will not harm the internal sovereignty and integrity of UK. There will be no internal checkpost within the country. It will provide for free movement of goods again between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, while placing checks only for those goods which are headed towards Republic of Ireland. So this segregation has been created through the Windsor Framework. This is expected to speed up the movement of goods, and it is expected to address all the issues that were created by the Northern Ireland Protocol. Then, to further satisfy the unionists who are strongly opposed to European Union, who call for a strong united Britain, another provision has been added in the framework called the Stormont break. You should know about this because potentially this could be a prelims question. UPSC could ask you, the term Stormont break was recently seen in news. What does it refer to? You should know what this provision deals with. It's named after one of the parliamentarians, one of the MPs of UK's parliament. This MP, known as Stormont, he's a unionist. He's opposed to the European Union. He has concerns about EU laws, how it affects Britain. So he was calling for a provision which allows Britain to exercise complete sovereignty and ensure that Northern Ireland is not affected by EU regulations. Because even after Brexit, Northern Ireland remains as part of the Trade Customs Union of European Union. Since there is a free open border here between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland, the EU regulations determine the movement of goods and the border functions between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. So now with the Stormont break, the local government in Northern Ireland and the British Parliament, they have given themselves the power to veto any EU regulation that they are not happy with, which applies for Northern Ireland. If EU comes out with new trade rules and laws tomorrow, and if Britain is not happy with it, through Northern Ireland government, which is a devolved government, and through the British Parliament, this European Union law can be vetoed so that it will not apply for Northern Ireland, which is British territory. It essentially protects British sovereignty from the imposition of EU laws and regulations. This power given to the Northern Ireland government and the British Parliament to veto EU laws and regulations as far as Northern Ireland is concerned is called the Stormont break. Alright, this satisfies the demands of the unionists who want a strong Britain, and they want a power to oppose EU laws and regulations if necessary when it applies for Northern Ireland. These are the key provisions that you need to remember. Hopefully, this should be a better deal. Many experts are pointing out that Windsor Framework is a better deal than Northern Ireland Protocol. It is going to smooth and ease out the trade process. It will reduce the delays hopefully on the ground, facilitate better trade, thereby stabilize the European economy. And this is good news for the global economy as well. It's good news for India because India has very big interest in Western Europe. Western Europe is a huge market for India. We have a lot of exports headed towards Western Europe. This destabilization, these delays and border issues would have affected India's trade as well. That is why the topic becomes relevant for the exam. You should be familiar with all these points and analysis for your prelims and mains. I hope everything is clear. Now let's move to the second topic. We'll look at a column from the same page that deals with adopt a heritage scheme. It's a topic that's important for art and culture and as well as for governance. The writer of the column is criticizing the adopt a heritage scheme. There are few concerns that the writer is raising against this scheme. So let's understand what is this scheme all about so that you can answer any prelims question. Let's look at the provisions. Let's understand the writer's argument, why the writer is against it, why is he criticizing this scheme. And let's be more neutral, balanced as well in our discussion. Let's not just go by what the writers are saying. Let's look at the other side of the argument. Let's see what's the government viewpoint with regard to this scheme so that you have a balanced perspective. Adopt a heritage scheme Apni Dharohar Apni Pehchan scheme. It was launched in 2017 by the Ministry of Tourism in collaboration with Ministry of Culture and the Archaeological Survey of India. The purpose of the scheme is to encourage individuals or public sector companies, private sector companies to adopt a heritage site, to adopt a cultural monument, to look after its basic well-being. India's heritage sites and cultural monuments can be adopted by non-state entities. Private companies can apply, and if they are selected, they can adopt a heritage site in India, a cultural monument, and look after its basic well-being, safety, protection, and provide for basic amenities and facilities. Public sector units can also take up this responsibility. Government-owned companies can also take up the responsibility. Or even individuals and other non-state organizations, non-government organizations are also eligible. So those who are selected by the government for this scheme, they will be recognized as monument mitras. They are the friends of those monuments. These monuments, they represent the rich cultural history of India, the cultural and heritage diversity of India. Currently, the government is facing some challenges in maintaining some of the heritage sites. Especially the lack of funds is a critical challenge. So these companies and individuals who adopt these monuments, they will provide for basic amenities. The intention here is to promote tourism, provide for basic facilities for the tourists, maintain sanitation and cleanliness at the site, provide for landscaping, beautification of the monument, maybe arrange a sound and light show to enhance the visual appeal, the tourist appeal of the monument, provide for basic facilities like water, restaurants, better ticketing facilities. So the purpose is to create such basic amenities which will help the tourists and which will help in the protection of the site as well. For private companies, the funds will come from their CSR budget. The corporate social responsibility funds will have to be used by the private companies to upkeep these monuments which are allotted to them. So they become the monument mitras, and in return these companies are given limited visibility at the site. That is, they can advertise their brand. They can put up their advertisements in few locations. Limited visibility will be given to them at the monument. So that way the company also gets recognition, and in return the companies which are adopting these sites, they help the country in protecting and upkeeping our cultural heritage sites. This is the purpose of the scheme. Now, on the face of it, it looks like a great strategy, right? It allows for non-state actors like private companies, individuals and other organizations to play a role to supplement the resources of the state. But the writer says there are some serious concerns with regard to the scheme, because the scheme is basically promoting the privatization of heritage conservation, which is actually a government duty. Protecting our cultural heritage, our civilizational heritage, protecting these key monuments and sites, it's the primary task of the government. It's a state responsibility. It's not a responsibility of the citizens, or it's not just the primary responsibility of the citizens or private entities. Yes, they have a role in protecting them. There is a fundamental duty as well, which calls upon citizens to protect and upkeep our monuments. But the primary responsibility lies with the state, with the government. So essentially the government is trying to outsource the maintenance and upkeep of heritage sites. It is trying to privatize this task. That is one of the concerns that the writer is raising. Because the question is whether these private companies, government companies or even individuals, will they have the right motivation to protect and conserve our heritage sites? Because private companies at the end of the day, they are driven by the profit motive. They might try to monetize the facilities they are creating. Are there any checks and balances against it? If they open ticketing booths, if they provide water and refreshment facilities, if they provide for restaurants, what is the price they are going to charge? That is a question. If they are driven by the profit motive, it could only help these private companies. then more importantly, conservation is a specialist task. These are critical monuments which are centuries old, which need expertise in their conservation and protection. So according to the writer, it undermines the role of Archaeological Survey of India. ASI is a specialist government organization which has the expertise, the tools needed and the right motivation to protect and upgrade our cultural sites. So that is why the writer is saying that this policy will lead to the erosion of our cultural heritage. We are privatizing heritage conservation, and along with this, it will undermine the participation of local communities and their relationship with these historical sites. Usually, local communities have a close link with these monuments. Their livelihoods depend on it. For example, the local community members, they become guides. They will become street vendors. So the tourists who come in, they are their primary source of livelihood for the guides and the vendors at these monument sites. If private players are taking over the basic amenities at the site, they might remove all these guides and street vendors, thereby hurting their livelihood. And these local communities were playing a role in the protection and conservation of the monuments because their livelihood was linked with it. They would also have a cultural, historical connection with these sites. They would have a stronger motivation, a stronger drive to protect these sites. So these are some valid concerns that the writer is raising. However, let's look at the counter argument. Let's see what the government of India is saying. The government of India says the scheme is very, very clear. The provisions of the scheme is very clear. It is only for development, operations and maintenance of tourist amenities in and around the monument. This does not involve the conservation and protection of the monument, which is a specialist task. This is not being outsourced to private companies. This will be still under the Archaeological Survey of India and the State Archaeological Department. The government entities, which are specialist expert organizations, they will still continue looking after conservation and protection. Only the non-core areas will be opened up for these monument mitras who will maintain the sites and provide for basic tourist facilities. The purpose is to provide better infrastructure, provide the basic amenities so it will attract more tourists. Because currently you would have noticed at many big monuments, important monuments, the facilities are pathetic. Even basic hygiene and sanitation does not exist. Drinking water, refreshments are not available. So tourists will not prefer to go to such sites, right? So the government's intention is to allow the private industry, the government companies or even individuals and other organizations to play a role to supplement the resources of the government. In fact, there is a global example for this. You look at Italy. Italy has the world's highest number of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Italy is loaded with cultural heritage sites, and the Italian government was struggling to maintain and upkeep all these sites. Italy was going through an economic crisis as well a decade back. It was facing shortage of funds to look after the conservation of these sites. So from 2014, Italy also has implemented a similar project, and it's running very successfully. Private companies are helping the Italian government to maintain some of the sites, provide better tourist facilities, and it has improved the amenities present at these historical sites. It has increased the footfall of tourists. So there is a successful example, that too in a developed country like Italy. So the government of India is saying that this is a non-revenue generating project. There is no profit motive involved here. It is a CSR responsibility. Companies are going to do this because of their corporate social responsibility, for their responsibility towards the society. So they'll invest their funds to provide for these basic facilities for tourists, and there is no need to oppose this scheme. There is no need to protest against it because you're not compromising on your cultural heritage. The heritage aspect, the conservation aspect will still be looked after by Archaeological Survey of India, by the expert organizations. The monument mitras will only provide for better facilities to improve tourism, to help out the tourists, give them better facilities. In return, these companies will fulfill their responsibility towards the society, and they'll get some limited visibility for advertising their brand. So this is what the government is saying. All right. So there can be a potential mains question here in GS paper 1. So these are the key points that you should be familiar with. Now moving on to the next column, a very important and interesting column as well. It's related to international relations and environment and ecology. It examines the topic of climate change and climate justice and whether international courts can play any role in providing for climate justice, especially for the smaller countries. The writer is examining whether international courts can play a positive role to evolve the jurisprudence around climate change and provide for climate justice to the smaller countries, which are the most affected by climate change. So let's understand this topic in detail. Let's see why this topic is in news in the first place. See, in the Pacific region, in the South Pacific, next to Australia, there are many small island countries, the Pacific island nations. One of them is Vanuatu. Now I want you to take this as an exercise, a small assignment. Open your atlas or open Google Maps. Look at all the Pacific island countries, including Vanuatu, where it is located. Identify its location. Look at the other countries as well, and see if you can name the other Pacific island countries in the comment section below. Alright, I'll take a look. Let me see how many of you can get it right. It's very important for map-based questions in your prelims. Understood? This small Pacific island nation, Vanuatu, has moved a proposal. It has moved a case, a resolution at the International Court of Justice. At the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, this small Pacific island country called Vanuatu has filed a petition. This was filed in 2021. It has asked ICJ to provide advisory opinion, to advise the countries, to advise the United Nations on how to deal with the issue of climate change. This petition has been filed by this Pacific island country at International Court of Justice. This proposal has received a lot of support. Many countries are supporting Vanuatu in this petition which is ongoing at the ICJ. So that is why the writer is examining what role can international courts play with regard to climate change. Can international courts bring out the legal jurisprudence with regard to climate change? Can they provide for climate justice to the smaller developing nations which are the most affected by climate change? So let's understand this in more detail. First, let's talk about this from a prelims point of view. I want to cover a few important facts about ICJ. You can always expect a prelims question here. So I'm sharing a couple of screenshots which gives you all the information about the International Court of Justice, all the factual information that you need. Let me take you through some of the key points. ICJ is one of the principal organs of the United Nations. Alright, there are 6 principal organs of the UN, such as UN General Assembly, UN Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the UN Secretariat, the Trusteeship Council, and the 6th organ is ICJ. This is the judicial branch, the judicial organ of the United Nations, the International Court of Justice. It is established through the UN Charter. Basically, it has the backing of UN Charter. It is backed by international law. It is headquartered at the Peace Palace in The Hague in Netherlands. The Hague is known as the judicial capital of the world. Many international courts and tribunals are present at The Hague in Netherlands, at the Peace Palace. This is where ICJ is headquartered. It is the only principal organ of the UN which is not located in New York. Alright? It was established in 1945 when the UN came into being, and its primary purpose is to settle disputes between the members of the United Nations. This is the primary role of the ICJ. So all UN member states are automatically members of ICJ. All 193 countries which are members of UN are members of ICJ. So any disputes between the members, between the states, will be settled by ICJ. Let's say India, Pakistan have a dispute. For example, the Kulbhushan Jadhav case, where an Indian national known as Kulbhushan Jadhav has been arrested in Pakistan on espionage and spying charges. He has been delivered the death penalty as well. India has opposed this. We have filed a case against Pakistan at the International Court of Justice. Through ICJ, we got a stay order to stay the execution of Kulbhushan Jadhav. So that is an ongoing case. So when two countries, when two states have a dispute between them, they can approach ICJ to get it resolved through the ICJ. Understood? The ICJ has another responsibility. It can provide advisory opinion to international organizations, UN bodies and specialized agencies of the UN. Now let's say UN General Assembly, UN Security Council, or any other organ or specialized agency of the UN like UNICEF, UNESCO, if they need some legal opinion on a certain matter, even they can approach ICJ. These are the two primary tasks of the International Court of Justice. One is to resolve disputes between states, and second is to provide advisory opinion to the UN organs and the specialized agencies of the UN. This court is comprised of 15 judges who are elected for a tenure of 9 years each. There is a geographical representation here. A region-based quota is provided for ICJ judges. Alright, there are 3 seats vacant for Africa, 2 for Latin America, 3 for Asia, 5 from Western Europe and the other states, and 2 for Eastern Europe. So these 15 vacancies are filled through elections which are held independently both in UN General Assembly and UN Security Council. Independent elections take place in UN General Assembly and also in UN Security Council. Based on these elections, the 15 judges are elected from these regions based on this quota system, geographical regional quota system, and they are elected for a tenure of 9 years each. Every 3 years an election will take place because 1/3 of the seats become vacant. Alright, and even the retiring judges can be re-elected. They are eligible for a re-election. Please remember, these judges who are elected from different countries, different regions, they will no longer represent their country. They are not simply representatives of their own country. They become international judges. For example, currently there is an Indian judge. There is a former Supreme Court judge from India who has been elected to the ICJ. I want you to figure out his name and post his name in the comments. Let's see how many of you know who is the Indian judge on ICJ right now. India backed his candidature. We supported his election. We fought a tight election against United Kingdom for 1 seat which was vacant. And India ensured we got support both in UN General Assembly and Security Council. We ensured that this former judge of the Supreme Court won the election and became a judge of the ICJ. But once he has been elected, he is no longer an Indian judge alone. He is not just representing India. He is not a representative of the Indian government. He becomes an international judge. He has to be neutral, unbiased. Alright? So these are some basic facts that you need to remember about the ICJ. You can always expect a prelims question here. Understood? Now, coming to the jurisdiction of ICJ. I already explained it has 2 primary jurisdictions. The first one is called contentious jurisdiction, where 2 countries bring up their legal disputes. When 2 countries file cases against each other to resolve their legal dispute, it falls under the contentious jurisdiction of ICJ. So ICJ rulings in this case is binding on the member states because all UN members have adopted the UN Charter, which is a binding international obligation. It's part of customary international law. So the rulings of ICJ becomes binding on the member countries which are approaching ICJ for settling their legal disputes. However, under advisory jurisdiction, where UN bodies and specialized organs are seeking advice, legal advice from ICJ, this is not binding. Advisory opinions are non-binding, whereas rulings in case of contentious jurisdiction is binding on the member states. That's another important point. So now, Vanuatu, the small Pacific Island country, has filed a case under the advisory opinion jurisdiction. Vanuatu, which is a UN member, has the eligibility to push for a petition through UNGA and UNSC. Through UN General Assembly, Vanuatu brought up a proposal. It proposed at the UN General Assembly that small developing countries, the small island states, they should get together and approach ICJ for legal opinion on how to deal with climate change, who will pay for the damages being caused to the smaller countries. This proposal of Vanuatu was supported at the UNGA. Today more than 100 countries are supporting it, and hence UN General Assembly has approached the ICJ under the advisory jurisdiction. So whatever advice ICJ provides here, even though it is not binding, it's not legally binding, but still it carries weight in international law. It helps in clarifying the legal position. It helps in evolving that legal jurisprudence on important legal issues. This could become a precedent for national laws as well around the world. Now that is why this petition raised by Vanuatu is important. See, under advisory jurisdiction, the rulings of ICJ is not binding on anyone. It is just a legal advice. But this ruling could become a precedent. It can set an example. It could become part of international law. It carries the same weight, and this could be followed by the judiciaries in other countries. Based on this, laws can be brought out by other countries. It could even guide the climate change negotiations which are going on. That is why this petition raised by Vanuatu is important. Because see, there have been many climate change initiatives at the level of the UN. We have the UN Climate Change Convention, the UNFCCC, the Framework Convention on Climate Change. Under this, we have brought out agreements such as Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement, which is the current binding agreement under the Climate Change Convention. Despite all this progress, we still haven't found a concrete solution to the problem of climate change. Correct? We still haven't found a way to tackle emissions effectively, to move away from fossil fuels and switch to cleaner fuels. The debate and the conflict between developed and developing nations still remains with regard to climate change negotiations. The developed countries that represent the global north, they are not ready to take up historical emissions. They are having historical responsibilities on them because they are developed today. They burnt fossil fuels for centuries. They are primarily responsible for climate change, and developing countries, small countries and small island developing states like Vanuatu, they are bearing the impact. If you look at the small island developing states, which is a category of small island countries in the world, countries such as Maldives, for example, Vanuatu, Samoa, all these are very, very small island nations, even Mauritius, for example. They face the biggest risk of climate change. If sea levels are going to rise tomorrow, these island countries might get entirely submerged. By the end of the century, some of these countries may not even exist if you don't tackle climate change immediately. These small countries, they haven't contributed to climate change. They are not the big contributors. It's the developed countries and today's large developing emerging economies which are contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. So this brings up the question of climate action and climate justice. How to provide for climate justice to the smaller countries who are bearing the disproportionate impact of climate change. What is the responsibility of the developed nations? Do they owe any reparations? Do they owe any compensation to the small island countries in the developing nations? Right? Should they pay any compensation? All these questions come up. This has been the very center of debate with regard to climate change negotiations. So any advice given by ICJ on this case could set a new precedent. These are the key questions that Vanuatu has raised through its proposal. What international law obligations of countries towards the protection of the climate system? What should the countries do to tackle climate change? What measures have to be taken? Right? What policy initiatives have to be taken? There are a lot of gaps in the current treaties that exist. In international law, there is a principle called the no harm principle. According to this, no country can take up measures which can harm the jurisdiction of another country. For example, US can't take up an activity which is going to affect another small country like, let's say, Cuba. This is the no harm principle recognized under customary international law. So ICJ can use this judicial principle, give it an interpretation for climate change, apply the no harm principle for climate change, and it can call for greater responsibility to be taken up by developed countries. It can even direct the developed countries to fulfill the obligations towards the smaller countries and to help protect the future generations. It can provide for climate justice, asking for reparations and compensation to be paid to to the smaller countries which are the most affected by the industrial activities of the developed nations. This could lay the legal ground for climate justice. See, right now climate justice is merely through discussions, merely through few agreements. For example, during the recent Conference of Parties to the Climate Change Convention, which was held in Egypt, the countries have agreed for a loss and damage fund. Under this loss and damage fund, developed countries have promised financial support to the small developing nations. But it is not clear as to how much will the developed countries contribute and which countries will contribute, to what extent. Will it match with their historical responsibilities and historical emissions? There is no clarity on this. The Climate Change Convention has just provided for establishing this loss and damage fund. There is just a broad promise that few $1 billion will be provided in assistance. But the specifics are not clear. Whether developed countries will take historical responsibility. Will it be quantified? Will it be specified which country should pay how much? Who will get the funds? What is the distribution mechanism? All these specifics have not been outlined. So if ICJ provides any advisory opinion here in this matter, it could set a new legal precedent for climate change and climate justice. That is the argument the writer is making. The writer feels international courts have a role to play in climate change. Even though their rulings may not be binding in this case, they can at least set a new example which could become customary international law. It could be followed by other courts. It could be followed by other countries and organizations when all these discussions are coming up. Alright? Another similar body is ITLOS, the International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea. The International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea. It is another international court which is located at Hamburg in Germany. Alright? This tribunal settles disputes under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, the UN clause, which defines maritime boundaries, maritime disputes. They're all settled under UN clause provisions. So to hear these cases, there is a tribunal called International Tribunal for Law of the Sea, and few countries, few small island states have approached this body asking for justice to be done to deal with environmental pollution, climate change, because these small island countries are the most affected by marine pollution. They are the most affected by global warming, rising sea levels and ocean acidification. So ITLOS can also pass a ruling, and advice can be provided which could become an international precedent for climate negotiations and for climate justice. Alright? So this is a role that international courts can play with regard to climate change. There could be a mains question on this topic, or even if there is an essay topic on climate change, this argument, you need to bring this up. You need to write at least one paragraph regarding the role of international courts. What can ICJ do? What can ITLOS do with regard to climate change? Understood? Now let's move to the smaller topics. Let's look at the prelims related topics. We have this article on page number 12 related to polity. Recently we spoke about the anti-defection law. We explained this in complete detail. Regarding the anti-defection law, the Supreme Court has made a very, very important observation, and the Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, has ordered that if a legislator who is facing disqualification on the grounds of defection under the 10th schedule, if they are part of a floor test, then he or she shouldn't be allowed to attend. They shouldn't be allowed to vote. Now, when does a floor test become necessary? Floor test becomes necessary when there has been defection within the house, especially from the ruling party. If few MLAs or MPs have defected to the opposition, the stability of the government has been compromised. So no confidence motion might come up, or the governor of a state might ask the government, the ruling party, to prove its majority on the floor of the house. So in such a floor test, if you allow legislators facing disqualification proceedings to cast their vote, obviously they will be biased. They are the ones who have defected. They are the ones who have destabilized the government by jumping to another party. If you are asking them to vote as well in the floor test, they will obviously vote in favor of the opposition. They'll vote against the government, leading to the collapse of the government. So this is a vested interest that the Chief Justice of India has pointed out. The Chief Justice of India has ruled that going forward, legislators who are already facing charges of disqualification under anti-defection law, they should not be allowed to attend the floor test, because they are the ones who are responsible for the floor test. They are the ones who destabilize the house and the government, and it's because of them, it's because of their defection that a floor test is being conducted. So if you ask them to vote in the floor test, obviously they'll vote against the government. It's a given fact. So that is why the Supreme Court has made it clear that legislators, MPs or MLAs who are facing disqualification proceedings under the 10th schedule under anti-defection law, they should not be allowed to participate in a floor test. It's a very, very important ruling by the Supreme Court of India. It has a lot of significance as far as India's electoral politics and center-state relations are concerned. Now moving on, the next topic from page 13 related to India-Australia relations. India-Australia share very close relations with each other. We have strategic relations, we have very close military and strategic ties. We even take part in joint military exercises like AUS Index. We take part in multilateral military exercises like Malabar, along with Japan and US. So US is a key partner for India today. We have set up very close strategic relations with Australia by becoming part of groupings, informal groupings like the Quadrilateral, which is enforcing international rules on China in the Indo-Pacific. India, Australia have a same vision for the Indo-Pacific. We want it to remain free and open. We don't want countries like China to break the international rules and threaten peace and stability. So we are completely aligned with regard to our defense, military and strategic policies. Similarly, we have very close economic relations. Just last year, we have signed a free trade agreement, the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, which was recently operationalized as well, which provides for free trade, duty-free trade for many exports and imports between India and Australia. This is one of the major FTAs we have signed with a big country like Australia, right? Similarly, we have very close cultural relations as well with Australia. As you know, there is a very strong Indian diaspora in the country. Majority of them are Indian students who study in Australian universities. Australia is a preferred destination for Indian students, especially for higher education. So to further facilitate these links, India, Australia are going to sign an agreement. They're going to sign an agreement. Australia's education minister has come to India for this purpose. This agreement will provide mutual recognition for educational qualifications of both the countries. For example, an Indian graduate or a postgraduate holder, his degree, his qualification will be recognized by all Australian universities and colleges. Similarly, if Australian students were to come to India, their qualification, their degrees will be recognized in India by Indian universities. This will primarily benefit Indian students who are seeking to go to Australia to study. Because see, under the national education policy of India, we have set an ambitious goal of increasing enrollment in higher education to 50% by 2035. We are looking to increase the enrollment of students in higher education institutions by 2035 under national education policy. This requires foreign universities to come to India. Indian universities alone cannot fill this gap. That is why India has been opening up to foreign universities, and just few days back, just a couple of days back, Australia has announced that the popular Deakin University is going to set up its campus in India at Gujarat in the Gift City. Alright, this will be the first foreign campus, foreign university campus in India. It will come up in Gujarat at Gift City. Alright, so this mutual recognition of qualifications, this agreement is essential to allow foreign universities to come to India from Australia to set up their campuses in India itself, so Indian students can access higher education. It will further facilitate the travel of Indian students as well to Australia to study and find employment in Australia. This is in line with our free trade agreement which we have signed, because this free trade agreement has simplified the immigration policies for Indian students and Indian professionals who are looking to study in Australia and work in Australia. Alright, this agreement holds all the more importance because very soon, in few days, Australian Prime Minister is going to come to India, a very important visit. right? This is the year where we are holding the G20 summit as well. So Australia is a part of it. Plus Australia's Prime Minister is visiting India on a very important landmark visit. So such agreements will take forward our relationship in the economic and cultural domain. Understood? That is why this agreement is very, very important. Next, another article on page 13 related to polity and internal security. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has brought out a new portal where you can file your grievances against social media platforms. If social media platforms are not resolving your grievances and complaints as per the IT rules of 2021, then you can approach this portal, file your grievance and appeal against the social media companies. See, in 2021, the Government of India notified the IT rules of 2021. This seeks to regulate social media, the social media intermediaries, digital media platforms and OTT platforms. Just a few days ago, we spoke about the regulation of OTT platforms in complete detail. It's related to the same topic. So under the IT rules, social media intermediaries were placed under certain obligations. For example, they have to set up a grievance redressal mechanism. There should be a grievance officer. The customers, the audience, they should know how to raise a complaint, how to report an objectionable post. They should know what action is taken. And the grievance officers of these companies, they should take action within a specified time period. They should even appoint compliance officers to comply with these rules. Report to the government whether the company is complying. They should also coordinate with the authorities, with the security agencies, law enforcement agencies, to trace the originator of a message which has created a law and order problem or which has been deemed as anti-national by the authorities. All these regulations have been placed on social media companies, but the concern is the grievance redressal mechanisms they have created, it's not functioning very effectively. Many of the grievances complaints are not being addressed. That is why a grievance appellate committee has been constituted by the Government of India. For this, a portal has been launched. The ministry has launched a grievance appellate committee portal. So if the social media companies are not addressing your complaints, or if you're not happy with their decisions, if they're not taken down the content that you had objected to, then you can approach these committees which were recently created by filing an appeal on this portal. Alright, last year the IT rules were amended where these social media companies were also mandated to protect fundamental rights such as Article 14, 19 and 21, to protect right to equality, right to free speech and expression, right to life. These rights are actually to be upheld by the state, but social media firms also are being obligated to uphold these fundamental rights. This is around the world. Around the world, governments are pushing social media firms to respect fundamental rights, especially right to free speech and expression and right to life and dignity. So India amended the IT rules last year, mandating the companies to uphold these basic rights. So going forward, they will have to allow opinions and posts which are against their community standards. Even if a post is violating their community standards, in the interest of right to free speech and expression, which is legally allowed in India, constitutionally allowed in India, those posts have to be allowed to remain. They can't take it down. Similarly, if a post is affecting the dignity of a person, even if it does not violate the internal standards of the company, they have to abide by the law and they have to take down those objectionable posts. They are being placed under a few obligations of fundamental rights. So to ensure this is effectively enforced, 3 committees have been set up by the Government of India. So for them, a portal has been created where you can approach the Grievance Appellate Committee. If you have these complaints against social media companies, you can register on this portal and your complaints will be looked into by these 3 appellate committees. Understood? That's a very, very important development with regard to regulation of social media firms in India. Next, another topic from science and technology related to ISRO. ISRO has successfully tested a cryogenic engine which is critical for India's Chandrayaan-3 mission. This year we are expected to launch Chandrayaan-3 mission. This would be the 3rd mission of ISRO to the moon. If you guys remember, in 2008, Chandrayaan 1 was carried out by ISRO. It was a very successful mission, right? We became only one of the top 5 countries to reach the lunar orbit. We deployed an orbiter in Chandrayaan 1 mission and carried out mapping of the lunar surface and its mineralogy. We even sent a moon impact probe in this mission, which crashed into the polar areas of the moon and planted the Indian flag. So Chandrayaan 1 was a very successful mission for India. Chandrayaan 2 was launched in 2019. This was a more ambitious mission because it involved not just an orbiter which would orbit around the lunar surface, but it also included a lander and a rover. The Vikram lander was supposed to land on the moon's surface and deploy a rover for further exploration. It was a very, very ambitious project. But unfortunately, the mission failed because the Vikram lander crashed into the lunar surface. The controlled descent did not work as planned. It crashed and the lander and rover got destroyed. However, the orbiter continued to function successfully. So it was a partially successful mission. So now ISRO is headed back to the moon. The third mission is underway. It will happen this year itself. And it is a repeat of Chandrayaan 2. Along with the orbiter, a new attempt will be made by ISRO to land on the moon. A lander will be deployed along with a rover to carry out a detailed exploration. So for this, you need a heavier launch vehicle such as LVM-3, Launch Vehicle Mark III, which is a renamed version of GSLV Mark III. Until last year, this was the name of India's most powerful rocket, GSLV Mark III, which has a very high lift capability. It can lift heavier payloads into orbit. It can lift up to 5 to 6 tons into higher orbits. So this rocket has been renamed as LVM-3, Launch Vehicle Mark III. It's a 3-stage rocket essentially, and the final stage is a cryogenic stage. It is powered by a cryogenic engine. Cryogenic refers to combustion which happens at extremely low temperatures. Liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen at extremely low temperatures are burnt in a cryogenic engine. This generates tremendous thrust which is needed for long missions, which is needed to place payloads in much, much higher orbits, including geostationary orbits and beyond that. So this is India's long-term ambition. It is vital for our space exploratory missions, and the cryogenic engine has been successfully tested. It's called CE-20 cryogenic engine. This is the last stage, the final stage of the 3-stage rocket, of the 3-stage LVM-3. So these are some basic details you should be familiar with as far as the Chandrayaan 3 mission is concerned. Now coming to the last topic for today, it's related to Indian economy. There's an article on page 16 which says that the core sector output has increased to a 10-month high in the month of January. So you should know what is the core sector. Which are the industries considered under the core sector? What is its composition in the index of industrial production, which measures industrial activity in our economy? Alright, let me just provide you some basic facts, and after that we can end the discussion for today. See, the index of industrial production and the growth in the core sector, which consists of 8 specific industries. This is very, very valuable data that is brought out by the Office of Economic Advisor in the Department of Industrial Promotion and Policy under the Ministry of Commerce. Under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, you have this Office of Economic Advisor under the Department of Industry, Policy and Promotion, which brings out this vital data. It brings out the index on industrial promotion and growth in the 8 core sectors, the 8 core industries. This is very valuable data that indicates growth, industrial growth in our economy. These core sectors include, you can see the list here, petroleum refinery products industry, which has the highest weightage, the electricity industry, steel, coal, crude oil, natural gas, cement and fertilizer. These are the 8 core sectors of the Indian economy. Alright, they have a 40.27% weightage in the index of industrial production. The 8 core sectors have a 40.27% weightage in the overall IIP index, which measures industrial performance in the country. Alright, These are the basic facts you should be familiar with, and according to the latest report, core sector output has increased to a 10-month high, which is a positive factor. It's a good development which indicates the continuing growth momentum in the Indian economy. All right. So on this note, I would like to conclude my discussion. Please take a look at the mains practice questions. Write your answers, post them in the answer writing portal. You will find the link in the description. And don't forget to head to our Telegram channel immediately, because right now there will be a quiz on the Telegram channel where all these topics will come up. There will be a quiz based on these topics. It will help you revise whatever we have studied. See, yes, these sessions are extending by 10-15 minutes, but trust me, it is worth your time, worth your effort, because we are putting in that extra effort to make this a comprehensive discussion. As I told you, if you watch these sessions, you don't have to read the newspaper after that. Spend 1 hour, 15 minutes. It's going to be worth it. I hope all of you feel the same. Do let me know how the sessions are going. I really hope it is helping you. Don't forget to attend the target prelim session, which is starting from today. All right. So that is it from my side. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.